President Donald Trump recently commanded the U.S. military airstrike of a ship or boat off the coast of Venezuela that they said was a drug cartel. And they sort of beat their chest about it and congratulated them. Vice President J.D. Vance said, "Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military." Now, somebody else said, hey, is this considered a war crime? There was no trial or anything like that. And J.D. Vance said, basically, I don't give a shit what you call it. Now, my former boss, Senator Rand Paul, had a response to that as a civil libertarian. Rand Paul responded to J.D. Vance, the vice president, by saying, "J.D., I don't give a shit. Vance says killing people he accuses of a crime is the highest and best use of the military." Did he ever read To Kill a Mockingbird? Did he ever wonder what might happen if the accused were immediately executed without trial or representation? What a despicable and thoughtless sentiment it is to glorify killing someone without a trial. Now, Rand Paul got a lot of heat from that, especially from conservatives and Republicans. And they immediately went to, well, if you're defending due process as it relates to this drug cartel, and the Trump administration has categorized drug cartels as terrorists, so that's how they justify just bombing them. And there's a point there. This is a debate. But many criticize Rand Paul by saying, well, would you have not taken out Osama bin Laden? Would Rand Paul have told SEAL Team 6 to stand down and not take out Osama bin Laden? Well, that's debatable too, but I want to concentrate on the idea of due process because I think Rand Paul's making a point that goes over a lot of people's heads. Rand Paul's right about due process, even when we're talking about the most despicable of people, drug cartels, terrorists. And let's just think for a second about how this could be turned around in a way where people who are considered terrorists, who may or may not be, probably not, could be take their due process rights taken away. I just want to give a few domestic examples. So, yes, we should go after terrorists. Yes, drug cartels could maybe be categorized as terrorists, but who else could be categorized as terrorists? MSNBC, according to them a couple of years ago, it was anybody involved in the Capitol Hill riots on January 6, 2021. Watch along with me if you recall.
Christopher Wray, the FBI director, has testified under oath before Congress. He didn't use the word insurrection. He said this was an act of, quote, domestic terrorism. That's the FBI director. That's the words we should be using. January 6th was an act of domestic terrorism, incited by Donald Trump.
Now, there are plenty of people who watched MSNBC, Democrats, during that period that were very eager to say what you just heard. J6 rioters were domestic terrorists. Should we take away their due process laws and rights? According to J.D. Vance, some things are so bad that you can do that. He doesn't give a shit. Well, you should give a S about due process. Rand Paul's absolutely right. Let's go back a few more years. What did Democrats think of the Tea Party movement? If you'll recall what Vice President Joe Biden said. Let's watch.
Today, the Vice President accused the Tea Party of acting like terrorists over the debt ceiling debate. Yes, terrorists.
So there were Democrats during that time, probably Joe Biden. These people don't get due process rights. These are terrorists. This is a separate category. Bomb them. Put them in jail. Let's go back even a little further, because this isn't something that could just happen to right-wingers. What about people on the left? What about the Black Lives Matter movement? What did people say about them when that was going on during the George Floyd protests?
The executive director of Black Lives Matter denouncing terrorism charges filed against some protesters.
So terrorism charges filed against Black Lives Matter protesters. The point I'm trying to make here is not that whoever this was in this ship that got bombed wasn't a drug cartel. They probably were. I'm not making the point that Osama bin Laden shouldn't have been taken out. I think he should have. But there's a difference between wartime and peacetime. And there's also the most important principle of due process. What makes America not only better, well, just better than most nations in the history of the planet, and I believe that as I'm an American, I'm a patriotic American, is that we do have a system that protects people. And there's a process. There's a due process. There are trials, even for the worst of us. So you could say, oh, I don't give a shit about this, and the government could just bomb somebody. Or you could be like Rand Paul and say, hey, we're Americans, due process matters, trials matter, because let's face it, next, as I just kind of showed, we remember what they thought about J6ers and Tea Partiers. Next, it could be Democrats saying they don't give a shit about what happens to Trump and his supporters because they're terrorists too. Just something to think about a little bit. Rand Paul's absolutely right on this.